So today we're going to be talking about shading and volume. Volume is basically what you get when you're drawing and you have a 3D object and you want it to look three-dimensional. I wanted to talk to you about the light. We have a 3D object here, and remember we've been talking about how in the world do you shade a 3D object so it doesn't look flat? When we draw, a lot of times, we draw things that are super flat. This is one of my sketches that I've done that I am going to do a marker drawing of. He's a goofy little gnome guy. I may add some more, may change him up just a little bit. Anyway, and everything is very flat. What we're trying to learn today is how to take something that's just a flat drawing and make it three-dimensional. Make it feel like it's a three-dimensional object. So here's an apple. We also have other things. This is a cylinder. This is just a salt container. Here is a box. So when you draw it, how do you draw it three-dimensional so you see all the different sides? And then how do you shade it so it looks like it's a three-dimensional object on a two-dimensional piece of paper or canvas or whatever you're using. So what I wanted to talk to you about in this is the light. It all has to do with light. Where the light is coming from, what kind of light and dark, and where the shade is, and what it's all called. Right here on this apple, you can see the darkest shadow is right here. The highlight, it looks like there's two highlights. There's one here and one here. So by looking at all of this, we want to think about where is the light source. The light source is up here somewhere. There's a light coming in and it's shining down, and you can see that the light is shining on this apple. So this side of the apple is going to be in more light. You have the highlights right there, and then you have the core shadow. This is going to be this. Okay, so I'm just going to draw this in. Let me do it in black so you can read it. So this is the highlight. All right, so here we have the highlight. Over here is our core shadow. So what's happening here is the light is bouncing. The light is up here, it's shining down. There's the highlight. There's the highlight, and then you can see the gradation of the color or of the shadow going around, and there's a bounce light. As you can see right here, we go up, and this is bounce light. Bounce light or reflected light. And another way of calling it is reflected, reflected light. Okay, because it's bouncing, the light is coming down, it's bouncing off of this, and it's pushing back on to our apple. So we have the core shadow, we have the highlight that is this and this, but then we have the gradation that goes from here to here, and then we have the cast shadow. Here is another thing that we have. This is called cast shadow on our apple. So now, in order to figure out how to draw this, how to put in, remember we're talking about all the different types of shading. We have hatching, cross hatching. Let me just pull that up really quick. Put the pencil on the side to create shadow, or we can do hatching, which is just lines. You get to, depending on how close the lines are and how far the lines apart, determines how much shadow there is. And then there's cross hatching. Remember we talked about hatching, cross hatching, stippling, And then this is another hatching, but doing it in a different fashion. So now we have this 3D object. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at it in black and white, because this simplifies how to create the shadows. Here is that reflective light. Here's the highlights. So what I did was I took photographs. I took this photograph and I put it in my computer and I made it black and white to help us minimalize it, you know, because here when we have color, it can be really confusing. But if you do it in black and white, it minimalizes where all the highlights and the dark area is, and we're going to draw this apple.